A beautiful evening to you out there, and welcome to Atlantic Television Network. And this is Sport Extraordinary, a program that is designed to bring you the latest happenings in the ever busy world of sports. My name is Emmanuel Michael. I'm glad to be here this evening to bring you, up to speed with the latest happening in the world of sport. Mikel Arteta is talking tough this evening because he's saying over his dead body things that the title race is still on, and according to him, quoting him in beat, he said that I'd rather go home and to think that the title race is over. All this and many more promises to be what we are set to dissect this evening, alongside some other English Premier Football League matches that is set to go down this evening. Chelsea is also in action. But when we come back from this break, we will bring you all of this and many more. Don't go anywhere, because we'll be back in a jiffy. All right, welcome back from that short break. In the building with me this evening is Kingsley Emmanuel. Kingsley, good evening and welcome to Sport Extraordinary.
Thanks for having me, Michael. Very happy to be here.
Happy to be here indeed. Let's get started, but very unfamiliar fashion this evening, because we head straight to Italy, because we'll have some games out there talking about the Coppa Italia, where the Nerazzurri will be locking horse against the Bianco Celesti, talking about Lazio this evening. Kingsley, between Inter Milan, the Nerazzurri, and the Bianco Celesti, talking about Lazio, who do you think is going to get the upper hand tonight? Don't forget that Inter Milan is fighting for the title as well. Lazio know that they are way far away from the title chase, so this could be one of the titles that they will be hoping to lift this season. Do you see Lazio giving Inter Milan a tough time tonight?
Definitely, I think it's going to be a very tough encounter where you take a look at the fact that they are nowhere close to the Italian Serie A this season, and Inter Milan, of course, already fighting for the title with the likes of Atalanta, and Napoli. So for me, I think with that alone, that would be a lot of motivation for Lazio. Looking at the fact that this, of course, should be an opportunity for them to take something, of course, home when the season comes to an end, even though they maybe cannot fight maybe for the top 4 or possibly fight for the title, but at least taking this one home, of course, will mean a whole lot, for them, in this particular one. So I think for me that would be a very high level of motivation for them going into this particular encounter.
But then a high level of motivation going into this particular encounter, because they know this could be their potential trophy this season. But they will be coming up against a very star-studded and a very solid Inter Milan side this season that have been very, very phenomenal. In fact, they've kept the chase against Napoli. The likes of Lautaro Martinez, Lilian Thuram are doing great things out there. Do you think that Inter Milan would just make this one of their primary aim of realistic chance of lifting this trophy? Because if you take a look at the way it is going for Napoli, you look as though Napoli under Antonio Conte will be very difficult to beat.
Yeah, definitely. Napoli under Antonio Conte will be very difficult to beat. But you talk about the Antonio Conte this season, hasn't really been the Antonio Conte we saw, I think, a few seasons ago at Inter Milan when he was there. I think he actually helped them, to win the title before, of course, he left. If you take a look at it, even I think last weekend, if I'm not mistaken, they dropped points, last weekend.
Yeah.
So you could see that Napoli, yes, they are, a little bit inconsistent, but they're not really that, they're not really giving that, finished touch. From what I've seen, they go in, get the points this week, and the next week, you don't really see them at their best. No thanks to some of their players that have actually, left the side. You talk about Victor Osimhen leaving earlier this season. Well, of course, he didn't have a very good, relationship with the new manager. Talking about Anthony Conte. Kvaratskhelia as well is not also in the team. Is playing for Paris Saint-Germain at this point in time. Yes, they brought in Romelu Lukaku, but how formidable? How has he been able to adapt to the side? Yes, he's been able to churn out, I think a few goals, so far for Napoli. But if you take a look at the Napoli side this time around, I think they've not really gotten that finish, finishing touches from Anthony Conte or from his tactics at this point in time. Probably we'll look forward to see Anthony Conte once again, maybe having another season before we could see this Napoli side, really stabilize. So for me, I think for Inter Milan, they really want to go out, in today's encounter, knowing the fact that yes, they are still chasing for the league title, but for this Coppa Italia, which of course I think they've also dominated this competition for a number of years now, they still want to of course go in and get this particular one. So for me, I think it's going to be an impressive one, and for me, chasing the Italian Serie A is still very important. Also chasing the Coppa Italia is also very important. So we'll just see which of how their strength, of course, will be able to carry them in both tournaments.
All right, so we see how their strengths are able to carry them in both tournaments. But let's leave Italy and history to Spain this evening, because the Copa del Rey will come alive as well, as Barca will lock horns against Atletico de Madrid in the semi-final of the Copa del Rey. Kingsley, this is another massive clash tonight. Don't forget that Barca is seated comfortably, not comfortably rather, but they are seated at the top of the La Liga table tonight. Just 1 point away from the third place, talking about Atletico de Madrid. How do you see this one panning out tonight?
It's going to be a very tough one. Don't forget how impressive the Spanish La Liga has been so far this season. Barcelona, Real Madrid, you talk about Atletico Madrid as well. They've just been shuffling the top spots, on the league table. So it's been so impressive. And looking at the fact that both teams, of course, have to meet, in the Copa del Rey, I think semi-final at this point in time is going to be impressive. Don't forget how Barca also dealt with Real Madrid in the Spanish Super Cup, and now they are facing Atletico as well in the Copa del Rey. So it's going to be an impressive one. And talking about Barcelona, I think they are very much ready for this encounter, despite the fact that one of their star players, talking about Lamine Yamal, not really fit enough. A foot injury we saw, of course, in the last encounter. But I think players like Robert Lewandowski, you talk about the likes of Rafinha, who have been very instrumental for the success of Barcelona. So you talk about the likes of Gavi, and the rest of them. These are players that have been so fantastic for FC Barcelona, and I think in today's encounter they're also going to live up to expectation from what we're seeing. Kudos was given to Barcelona coach, talk about Hansen Flick, who has at least this is his fourth season with the side, and he has been able to change the narrative. Xavi was there last time and he was struggling, everything, demanding for players, though he actually tried his best, to do something with the side, but I think experience was it as a manager. He just came from the from the league in Qatar, where he was managed in the club down there, down to the Spanish La Liga to coach Barcelona. Probably maybe if you ask me, from what I've seen now, that job was bigger than Xavi. Yes, from what I've seen, that job at Barcelona was bigger than Xavi. Though he tried his best, but his best, of course, was not good enough. So for me, kudos to Hansen Flick for being able to stabilize the team and being able to utilize the potentials, in the players at this time. For Diego Simeone tonight, I think he's one man that's also very much optimistic. If we take a look at how far they've been so far in the Spanish La Liga, they've done so well. Even in the UEFA Champions League, yes, they've not taken up their foot out of that one too. They've also been pressing so hard. And as well the Spanish La Liga, and now the Copa del Rey semi-final. I think he'll want to grab this one at this point in time. And I think for today, we're going to see some players in the Atletico Madrid side. They will be on showcase, likes of Anthony Griezmann, of course. You talk about one man who has also been very fantastic for them. We can't take away the likes of Llorente, Coco, the man who left. Talking about Manchester City, Julian Alvarez. I think is also another player also we're looking at for today. So it's going to be a very interesting one to watch out for. I can't really decide on who gets it because both sides are very fantastic this season. So we'll just see what I think what's going to decide this game is going to be the tactical prowess from both managers. That's what we'll decide to this encounter.
It promises to be a massive clash tonight between Barca against Atletico de Madrid, and whenever these two teams comes together to play themselves, it's always a very keenly contested encounter. Catalonia, a club based in Catalonia and a club based in Madrid. Of course, the political rich history that these both two teams share. These two cities, a lot. So whenever they get to battle, whether Atletico de Madrid or Real Madrid against Barcelona from the Catalan, it is always a very, very difficult game out there. We see how that one pans out tonight, but like you heard Kingsley there, it got to boil down to tactical brilliance, tactical ingenuity from both coaches. Is it Hansi Flick that will get the better, or you think that maybe the man, Diego Simeone, the energetic coach, is going to get the better of Hansi Flick? We'll get to see, tonight. But I tell you, the English Premier League as well, there are some games that is set to take place tonight because Brighton will also travel away to keep a date against Bournemouth. Kingsley, this is more like an European, battle, a spot for an European finish between these two teams. Bournemouth is seated 6th on the English Premier League table with 43 points. Brighton is on the 9th position with 40 points, just 3 points separating these two teams. And both teams are trying to finish within European sport. How do you see this game panning out tonight? It's
going to be a very tough one. Earlier around this season, we saw Bournemouth, doing wonders. Trying most they can to see how, they can step up that game. We saw them having some kind of impressive performance, with some top teams. At some point, the season they started dropping. But for Brighton, they are also one side as well. They have also been that fantastic. Trying most kind to showcase themselves. So just like you mentioned, it's going to be a very, very huge, fight. Looking at the fact that they are both trying to see how to find a place, to play European football, come next season at this point in time. So it's going to be a very tough one. But if you take a look at that encounter, you want to give it to Brighton because I think they've been a little bit, formidable, in a few games, we've seen at this point, especially their man. We've seen a very impressive performance for him. Talking about Simon Adingra. He's been one man, of course, that has been so fantastic, of course, for Brighton. And I think today he's going to be on showcase, and we're going to see what, of course, he brings to the table. So it's going to be an interesting one. And for me, I think Brighton, have an edge in that particular one.
Brighton certainly have an edge in that particular one, but I tell you, take a look at the form of Bournemouth. It's going to maybe be more like a banana peel for Brighton tonight. I tell you, it promises to be a massive showcase of football out there. We'll also have another game that will see Aston Villa trade tackles against Crystal Palace. This is another tricky game, Kingsley. Aston Villa trying to push for a top 4 finish, while Crystal Palace, they are away from the top 10. In fact, they are seated 13th in the English Premier League. How do you see this one panning out as well?
For me, it's going to be an interesting one. This is a game that everyone wants to set their eyes on. Aston Villa, they won over the weekend. They took out 3 points home over the weekend. Since they got the Manchester United man, Marcus Rashford, it's been a bit rosy for them. The last 2 games they played, I think they drew. Marcus Rashford, of course, was so instrumental in that game. But the weekend game, they won the weekend encounter. Rashford was also very instrumental as well for them. So for me, I think the presence of Rashford has actually rekindled that spirit, that winning mentality, at Aston Villa, and Unai Emery, of course, being able, of course, to utilize the man, and this to show that yes, Marcus Rashford, of course, nothing was wrong with him when it was as at Manchester United. Maybe because of the little clash he had with the manager, talking about Ruben Amorim, that of course really could actually hinder your performance when you're not, you don't have a good mindset, maybe with your teammates or your coach. Could have a way of actually dampening your performance, and that's what we saw for Marcus Rashford at Manchester United. But in Aston Villa, we've seen that fire burning in Marcus Rashford once again. And in tonight's game, I think Aston Villa still have that edge. They've done so well so far this season. And I think Mikel, I beg your pardon, what's his name again? Unai Emery has also been so fantastic. They finished top 8 in the UEFA Champions League, and now they're fighting for the top 4. What else do you need from this team at this point in time? So for tonight's encounter, I think the brilliance of the likes of Oli Watkins. You talk about Marcus Rashford, who has come into the mix now, of course, to make things easier for them, and the likes of Marco Asensio. I think some of these players down there at Aston Villa, they've been so fantastic, and I think in tonight's game, they might possibly have that edge ahead of Crystal Palace.
Aston Villa will certainly have that edge over Crystal Palace, especially still basking the euphoria of their last victory against Chelsea, when they were a goal down but turned the game around, where Marcus Asensio and Marcus Rashford combined to produce 2 goals that actually helped them to get all 3 points against Chelsea Football Club. But tonight again, Kingsley, will see Wolves also welcoming Fulham. This is another tricky tie between these two teams, because I tell you, the English Premier League, one exciting thing about it is that all these teams, they are never ready to let go of anything, even if they are not doing pretty well. But when games come calling like this, especially midweek games like this, it's always a very difficult one. How do you see this one panning out? Who do you think is going to get it better? Is it Wolves or Fulham?
Of recent, Fulham, they've been so fantastic. And of course, you take a look at their form, you definitely, of course, want to give it to them, in this encounter. Alex Iwobi, of course, have been so good with them, lots of Kevin Bassey, and the rest of the players down there. They've been very fantastic. But in today's game against Wolves, I think the Wolverhampton Wanderers side will want to pick up. They've not been that fantastic so far this season. And at this point, talking about being midweek game, I think they want to step up, that game, in this particular encounter, against Fulham. I think we've seen some couple of players down there in the Wolf to see how they can put up, some level of performance, the likes of Nelson Semedo, and the rest of them. These are players that have been shouldering the ball down there in the team, but their best has not really been, what could really yield that, 3 points, for them in most of the games they played. So if you take a look at it on paper, you want to give it to Fulham, based on form, based on recent performance, in this particular encounter. But anything can happen in this particular game, especially when it comes to you playing against Fulham. Fulham, they are one side that, yes, they can give you that hope, but you never can tell how it will end, at the end of the day. So for me, it's a 50-50 game.
Sometimes if you take your eyes off them, they will certainly actually rule them out any day, anytime. But another big games per se, I don't know whether to call it big game or not, but Chelsea, the stuttering Chelsea is playing host to the bottom team, talking about Southampton. Can Chelsea revive their hope of at least finishing within the top 4 this season tonight, starting with Southampton, because results lately have not gone their way?
Yeah, result lately has not really gone the side of Chelsea, and for me, I think it's a disappointing one for Enzo Maresca and his men. They started very well, no, they didn't really start very well this season, but at some point in the season, they picked up. Yes, they picked up. Everyone was like, "Oh, Chelsea, are they going for the title? Oh, are they going for top 4? Where are we going to see Chelsea at the end of the day?" A lot of praise and accolade, for Enzo Maresca, and the players. But all of a sudden, we saw them dropping. Even the Kopama that everyone used to be afraid of on the pitch of play is now, is now looking, very ordinary, on the pitch now. And some are saying that everyone now understands what Kopama could play, on the pitch of play at this point in time. So for me, it's not been a good one. And coupled with the fact that after, spending, I think, £1 billion, they're still having that, attacking, having that, striker, that top striker. We understand Nicola Jackson, of course, he got injured a few weeks ago. And then if you take a look at it now, Chelsea do not really have that top striker. So how can you spend over £1 billion and you still not, you're having issue, of an attacking, player, a top striker in your team? And that's good. That's brings that question: what were they really doing with the money? Was he really buying wingers, buying midfielders, and investing a little bit, on defenders? What happened to the attacking option? That's why last general transfer window, I think that's why they were going for Victor Osimhen. But I think that deal, of course, couldn't materialize, and they had to settle for Nicholas Jackson, who has not, of course, been delivering, for some time now, and now he's injured. No one knows when he's going to come back, to serve the situation, for Chelsea Football Club. So it's so sad. And for this, yes, this is the first season of Enzo Maresca, but with the level of investment, with the players, injection of players, we also Jordan Sancho came into the side with some couple of players. Chelsea should be able to get back to that top 4 spot. Yes, with that level of amount of money spent, with everything they've done to be able to stabilize the side under Todd Bowley, Chelsea should be able to get back to top 4 spot. We're not talking about winning the Premier League, because I think that is out of contest at this point in time for Chelsea. We're talking about getting back to the top 4 spot. So for tonight's game, it's a no-brainer. Of course, Chelsea should be able to get all 3 points against Southampton. Southampton, they've been the whipping team so far this season. Seated bottom, we all know definitely at the end of the season they'll go back to relegation and see how they can bounce back. So Chelsea should be able to get all 3 points tonight.
On paper, Kingsley is saying that Chelsea should be able to get all 3 points tonight, but I tell you, football is not what it is. It is not written on a black and white when you say, okay, 1 plus 1 is equal to 2. And that's why Chelsea is going to warm their fingers, or rather, they will warm their fingers to the bone to ensure that they get all 3 points against the bottom team, talking about Southampton, who, just like you heard from Kingsley, are the whooping boys for this season's English Premier League.
Yeah.
It promises to be a very interesting clash tonight. But let's come back home before we head back to Europe. Let's talk tennis this evening on the show, because Nigerian table tennis star and African men's single defending champion Haruna Quadri is in Group 2 of this year's ITTF African Championship. Kingsley, he is a defending champion. Now, do you think that he has a realistic chance of defending the title, or defending his championship successfully? Taking a look at some other quality players that are also, grouped alongside him.
I think for me, you talk about the chances of Haruna Quadri, not too far. I think he can possibly get something out of this particular one. And for me, from what we've seen so far, Haruna, we understand he has not been that consistent. We've seen him getting, I think the last tournament he got to the semi-final, and then this one now, we look forward to see if he can retain the title he won last time. What we need now from, Haruna is high level of consistency. The man has not been that, very much, consistent, and that's the reason so many persons do not place much hope, on him at this point in time. So I think he stands a chance. We understand the very best, the likes of, the man, from Egypt, trying to recall his name, Omar Assar, and the rest of them will be coming up for this one. For me, I think Haruna should be able to step up his game and see how, of course, to reclaim his position. Haruna used to be the best, in Africa. Currently, he's still the best, but when you talk about level of performance, he had that high level of performance than what was seen at this point. So he should be able to look forward to see how he can reclaim that spot back. And of course, you understand the man is not really by his side at this point. Very soon, he might be, of course, calling to the great. So for me, this few years he has is the time for him to build a very good legacy and leave the stage on a high.
Good time for Haruna Quadri to build a great legacy and live on a very high note. But at this point, we are not living on a high note, because we still have some interesting stories coming your way. We'll be back after this short break. Don't go away. All right, welcome back from that short break. Let's head straight to Formula One this evening because Max Verstappen says Red Bull are confident they have made the right decision to their cars as they seek a fifth consecutive driver's title. Verstappen's fourth crown last year was founded on a dominant period in the first 5 races before McLaren, in a particular, caught up with him in performance. The Dutchman drove an outstanding season to defend his lead from London Norris when the Britain McLaren was the faster car in the second half of the year. If he becomes a champion again, he will be the only second driver in the Formula One history to win 5 titles in a row after Michael Schumacher did that. Red Bull have released some official photographs of the car, but they were taken in a studio, and the car has been shot in a low light, so any important aerodynamic details are very, very obscure. So Kingsley, the man Verstappen is speaking glowingly about the transformation, about the touches they've done with their car, talking about Red Bulls. Is it a clear testament that indeed he's ready for the season?
I think if he has come out to testify that the car is okay, it means everything is okay. Of course, I remember last time when Lewis Hamilton, of course, was in Mercedes last season. I mean, it just concluded season. When he came up, he said that he is not really comfortable with the car. He said it clearly, even before the season got started. But for Max Verstappen, for him to have come out to say that he's okay, that everything about the car is all right, that's to say that, of course, the man is really, really, comfortable, and the car is also in good shape for him to compete, this season at this point. So it promises to be an exciting season, promises to be an exciting race for we to actually watch out for. Talking about Max Verstappen, looking forward for his 5th consecutive driver's title. He won the driver's title championship last time ahead of the likes of London Norris. This time, of course, he really wants to make it big. Getting that will actually help him to equal that Michael Schumacher record, winning the driver's title for the 5th consecutive time. That would be a very, very huge one for him. But would that be an easy one? Looking at the fact that other constructors are also preparing. The other day, Lewis Hamilton was experimenting with the Ferrari car. You talk about Charles Leclerc, and for McLaren, they have a certain Lando Norris who actually, came up to limelight last season, and everyone was actually surprised. This season, he wants to do more. He will not want to relent on what he did last year. He wants to build on that performance. So it's really going to be tough, for Max Verstappen. I think this is the season that's going to determine if Max Verstappen is that top driver everyone is talking about. Don't forget, last season, the Red Bull car was better than every other car. That is it, and that actually gave him an edge. So, but now that every other constructors, they put their car in order, and I think engine levels are now the same now, we're going to see who is the best. We're going to see if Max Verstappen is really that driver everyone think he is.
We're going to see whether the man is truly that impeccable and unmovable driver that he is. Don't forget, he has dominated in the last 2 years right now. The man has made a mark for himself, and he continues to break grounds. And for this season, we keep our fingers crossed, hoping to see how the Formula One, pounds out, because I tell you, it promises to be a massive one, because big-name drivers as well that have actually changed their position from one constructor to another will be on showcase as well. So we'll see how that one pounds out. Don't also forget that other constructors rather are doing everything possible to upgrade their engine. So we can't wait to see this year's Formula One get started. But let's head back to football right now, because Liverpool legend Jimmy Carragher has dismissed the African Cup of Nations as a major tournament. Speaking on his Sky Sports, Carragher suggested that Salah's nationality and Egypt's lack of success on the global stage could hinder the players' chances of winning the ball this year. However, former Manchester City defender Micah Richards hit back at Carragher, saying, just to say, AFCON is a major tournament, before his statement also was followed by that of Danny Sturridge, who also was quick to also dispel such thoughts coming in from Jimmy Carragher. To him, quoting him, he said, if you win the Euros or Copa America, it's deemed to be a big one. Also, the AFCON is also in the same level with the Euros and the Copa America. Kingsley, another controversial statement coming from Liverpool legend Jim.
For me, competition. I remember the last African Cup of Nations we had in Ivory Coast. The world was commenting about that tournament.
True.
There was a whole lot of, suspense in that competition. Ivory Coast were nowhere to be found. All of a sudden, they were in the final. We saw what happened between the Super Eagles of Nigeria and South Africa. What are we saying? Even the Europeans, the British, everybody was talking about the AFCON. I remember when Rio Ferdinand was talking about the AFCON, was actually saying who is going to win the African Cup of Nations.
True.
So what are we saying here? Jimmy Carragher is a controversial pundit. Since he retired, he has been very controversial. Putting up high level of criticism on players, on teams.
True.
He even had a clash with Cristiano Ronaldo at some point.
True.
So for me, I think it would just leave him, to be that loquacious the way he is, and for me, his comment did not really hold water. For me, at this point in time, his comment did not really hold water. The African Cup of Nations is a major tournament, just like the Heroes is, just like the Copa America is, just like the continent, like the Asian tournament as well. The African Cup of Nations, in fact, is better to say.
If the African Cup of Nations is better, why does it not get the needed hype that it really deserves? Is it that something is missing somewhere in terms of the marketing or in terms of publicity, or you think that just the level of the competition is not that standard enough? That is why he's dispelling it and trying to take a dig at the African Cup. What could be that factor responsible for not putting into the world the way it is, which is a perfect competition?
I think one, I will cite it on the players. All right.
Okay.
Yes, I understand we have stars. We have the likes of Mohamed Salah. We have the likes of Ademola Lookman. We have the likes of Victor Osimhen. You talk about Sadio Mane and the rest of them. All right, but what stage in football are they? That's the question. What stage in football are they? Let's use Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi, for example. They are up there when it has to do with football. In any tournament, in any league they play, people want to watch. People want to know what is happening. So if our stars are very much global, the attention of the world will want to be here. Salah is not a global star. I'm not saying the likes of Osimhen is not a global star. Ademola Lookman, these are global stars. But what level are they attained when it has to do with football? So if possibly we could say maybe Mohamed Salah has won the Ballon d'Or, just like Lionel Messi has won, let's say, five-time Ballon d'Or winner playing in the African Cup of Nations. Oh, we want to see what his team will do, or what he will do for his team. Which league are they playing? Which team are they playing for? How much are they being paid? These are factors that promote a particular tournament. All right. Another thing is also about the publicity of the tournament. We understand CAF, of course, the last one they really tried. We saw how they were able to utilize the video assistant referee. We saw how everything went smoothly. There was no distortion. Everything they had a high level of officiating. Even some persons were saying that the British League and every other league should even come and copy from the African Cup of Nations on how to use the video assistant referee. So it's all going to boil down to publicity. We have to, of course, give a wider coverage to the African Cup of Nations. All right, you take a look at what happened last time in Ivory Coast, where broadcast rights. There was even an issue in terms of broadcast rights. We hear a certain country, I think down there in Africa, actually bought the broadcast rights of the tournament and started selling to other media outlets. Some of those things. But can we see in a situation whereby all those all those big broadcast organizations in, let's say, England, Spain, come to buy broadcast rights of the African thing? So when you get that kind of reach and coverage, you're able to get, the world. So that's, I think, the competition is gradually getting there. In fact, the last one was very, very interesting. There was a whole lot of suspense. There was, so many things that could actually catch the attention of people. So for me, one, our styles should improve. Yes, our stars, most of the time they talk down on our players. Recently was the case of Ademola Lookman.
True.
Our stars, they should improve. They should, of course. I like the doggedness of Victor Osimhen. I just like his level of, if you want to do this thing, he will tell you. If you don't want, he will tell you he's not going to do it. So I think our stars, they should improve, play for better teams, look for, being paid very well. And I think that will give us that respect and that recognition that we need.
That will certainly give us the respect and recognition that we truly desire and need right here in Africa. We must, as a matter of must, blow our own trumpet, because if we don't, then I tell you, the Europeans, the Asians, they are not going to do that for us. So we must hold fast to that which is from Africa and try to cherish it, and try to get to where we ought to be in the world map as well. Because I tell you, anyone trying to, cast aspersion on the quality of the African Cup of Nations is just doing, maybe I call it very petty sentiment out there, which does not hold water. Because I tell you, the African Cup of Nations is one of the biggest sporting hostility across the globe, just like the Euros, just like the Copa America, the Asian Cup, and all of that. Away from that, let's head straight to, Emirates, because Arsenal is in the news this evening. Arsenal will not stop fighting for the English Premier League title despite slipping 11 points behind leaders. Liverpool says Gunners boss, talking about Mikel Arteta. The Gunners lost further ground on league leaders Liverpool last weekend following a 1-0 defeat by West Ham at the Emirates Stadium. In that very one, only 3 teams in the English Premier League history have closed a gap of 11 points or more to become champions in the end of the season. But Arsenal still have a game in hand against the Ancelotti. But that is not my worry, whether they have a game in hand or not. My worry here, Kingsley, is about the belief, the boldness, the audacity coming in from the Gunners boss, talking about Mikel Arteta. Quoting him in part, he says, if I stop believing, then I will go home. So you still have this belief that Arsenal is still very much in for the title chase. Realistically speaking, with few games to go, about 30-something points to play, does Arsenal have any realistic chance of upstaging Liverpool and win this season's English Premier League?
I think that the chances is very slim. The chance of Arsenal winning the league is very slim. Liverpool are 11 points ahead of them. And Liverpool are not playing like a team that wants to drop points. That's the problem. Assuming they are playing like a team that will drop points ahead, that would have been so confident. Because for me, this is belief and hope. I don't think it's going to yield fruit at the end of the day. Liverpool, they are not playing like a team that will drop points. That's the problem. That's the problem at the moment. And they even lost over the weekend. I think they lost to West Ham.
Yeah.
It was very painful to their fans. When they had the opportunity maybe to see how to close the gap a bit, they let it slip off their hands. It was very, very disappointing. I understand that injury has not been the best of friends for them. They have, most of their could bring setback, to a team. But this is Arsenal been looking for a title, for the Premier League title, for almost 20 years now, if not 20 or more than 20 years.
More than.
How can you be looking for a title for more than 20 years and you say you have injury problem and then that's hinder your progress for winning the title? Are they really working? We're talking about a team that has a strategy of winning the title. Was it 30 years thereabout? He walked in the few years he was there, he was able to win the Champions League. So I asked myself, what is the strategy? What is the plan that Arsenal they are putting up to win the league? Is it just every season they buy players? Worrisome. If you're a fan of Arsenal, you'll be so worried. Where are they going to? Where are they heading to? Mikel Arteta has been there now for 5 years and is still hopeful of winning the Premier League. and this one is almost, going out from out of his hand at this point in time. So it's really worrisome for him to come out and say that they still believe that they can win the league. I think for me, it's really a difficult one for Arsenal, because Liverpool, they are not ready at all to drop any points.
Liverpool under Ancelotti are not ready to drop any points, according to Kingsley, but Mikel Arteta thinks contrary to him. He still believes that hope against all hope. He still believes in hope that Arsenal is still in for the title chase in the English Premier League. But I tell you, a lot of injury worries for Arsenal. They don't have a center, a recognized center forward. And this is another big problem for Mikel Arteta and Arsenal in their quest to break the jinx of over 20-something years without winning the trophy again. I tell you, we see how this one pan out, but one thing is certain, is going to go down to the wire, because it's games still to come. And who said that Liverpool cannot drop points? But the big concern here is, if Liverpool certainly drop that point, can Arsenal capitalize? That is a big question that so many persons, has been asking out there. But I tell you, we'll keep our eyes closed to see how this season English Premier League go down to the wire. All right, we'll keep our eyes open according to Kingsley. We are certainly keeping our eyes open to see whether Arsenal is going to do the unthinkable. But I tell you, go out there this evening, watch your game devoid of any violence, because there are 3 results you get in a football match. It's either you win, you lose, or you draw. Whichever way comes your way, take it and show the spirit of sportsmanship. We keep preaching football without violence. At this point, this is where we drop the anchor. I did a show this evening alongside Kingsley Emmanuel. My name is Emmanuel Michael, the Prime Minister of the Airways, and I'm saying gracias.